past, fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact don't ask, grab reactions, jacked attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember you're discreet now, get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kiru's show here. And now, whenever we last left off with this series, Izuku Midoriya, he has just gone through a bit more training. Parts of his daily routine. Now, not only did Midoriya go through, well, hostage training or, well, escape training, he also did go through firearms training, along with actually combat training. Things that he does take place in his everyday to-day life. And would usually spend a long time doing. In fact, Midoriya is also being persuaded and actually taught multiple languages as well, along with actually starting to pick up more disciplines and appreciations for different methods to get the job done. Now, with that all being said, we do pick up today. It has been roughly 2 to 3 days since Midoriya's fight with that one kid. And Midoriya, no matter what he seems to do, he seems to be very good at it. Even though he doesn't really seem to try a lot. Now, in reality, Midoriya dedicates a lot of time to doing what he does. Even during the free time he does have, he is learning or going through different courses. Considering the fact that he spends his free time going to extra training, whereas everyone would either spend it sleeping or learning, or probably polishing their own weapons, and properly maintaining their guns. Midoriya dedicates it to training, since he does have to try and keep up with everyone else. Now, with that, Midoriya is actually coughing as he is eating. Somebody next to him actually asking him if he's alright. Midoriya saying he is, as he actually is going to eat his lunch, saying he's just still trying to recover. Whenever the guy, during his combat class, slammed him on the back a couple days ago, he picked him up again and kept slamming him back. The doctor said that he had a few bruised ribs, but he should be fine. They're going to take about 4 to 5 weeks to heal. And before that time is over, Midoriya is still going to try and keep up with them. Jeez, man, I don't know why you try and keep up, somebody says. Another person saying that Midoriya should just really slow down. And if he is going to be healing, he should be going to a combat course. Midoriya is saying that the nurse told him not to, but she doesn't really decide his classes. He does. He usually would go to combat early in the morning, and then his firearms training class, then his linguistical classes, and then he would go to his actual other classes. Him then listing off 2 more language classes and another combat class, before actually his interrogation class, saying that he does have some form of schedule within the week. Now, they find this to be very interesting, as we do actually cut to a group of kids sitting at a table. All of them whispering to themselves and somewhat coming up with a plan. That quirkless bastard does seem to be on a high horse, and they want to knock him off of it, since he is beneath all of them. And in order to do this, it would take a great deal of help. Now, let's say that one of these kids actually did talk to a few people around. and he eventually did find somebody who was rumored to have a quirk that would help them. And he proposed an idea. They would pay him a certain amount of gold if he's able to help them with something. All they would need is for him to, them stating these things and these things. And it would be a great deal of help. The kid nodding, and not really caring who they're messing with. Now, we do have later on into the day. As Midoriya, he actually does go walking into a locker room. As he does go to his locker, bring his thumb up and putting in his digital thumbprint. Before then, after it being entered or accepted, him putting in a code. As it happens, a small little knob comes out of the locker wall. Midoriya grabbing it and turning it, as he's able to open it up. And there you do actually see a small little armory, or where there should be weapons, clothes, shoes, and Midoriya's other gear. Now, Midoriya actually has noticed that the padding on the wall to hold up his guns, or the, outcut of guns are, you do have missing firearms. Midoriya immediately taking notice of that, and then looking where his knife would be. Before him doing one thing, grabbing the phone that's right there and pulling it out of the locker wall, and seeing if his little stash is still there. Midoriya finding that it is, quickly pushing it back in, before looking in the rest of his locker, pulling out his ammo drawers and seeing if anything's left inside. Nothing. So Midoriya is going to go to his next class the way he is currently dressed. And he does actually go to leave. Now, after that is said and done, Midoriya does walk into the hallway, where you do actually see the kids that Midoriya has had problems with. Along with that one kid that Midoriya mocked a few years ago, who did want to get some revenge. Midoriya is that cocky, arrogant bastard, but at the same time he does live up to his reputation. He doesn't lie about anything. Isla showed them all the video of Midoriya taking down those three men with a fucking pencil. And the kid was quite wary of Midoriya, before remembering and actually hearing that he's quirkless. He wasn't really less afraid. However, they outnumber him. And they actually do have a few quirks that are going to be useful to take Midoriya down. Now, we do actually have the kid that was hired to help them, as he does actually sneak into the security room. As soon as he does, he actually does bring up a firearm and shoot a man in the back of the neck. The dart going throughout the air and hitting the man, as they do fall over, passing out. The man was shot with a dart gun, and he's going to be out for roughly a few minutes. The kid then walking over and pulling the man back into his chair, before actually using zip ties and tying him down. They're not too sure how long he'll be out, but for right now, they need to, as they actually do, put their hands on the keyboard, and data begins to roll throughout their eyes, as they begin to disable security cameras all around the facility, and cut back their footage and edit them, putting them on a single loop. Now, with all that, after they're done, they actually do whip out something and begin to wipe away their fingerprints, cleaning up any evidence that they were ever there, along with actually pulling the dart out of the man's neck and leaving. There's no evidence left behind, except for the fact that this man, whenever he does come to, is going to know that something is fishy. So he'll at least be a bit more preoccupied before he could even send a notice to anybody. Now, let's cut back to that hallway. Midoriya has walked out of the locker room, and he actually has to go to walk down the left corridor. And then there's the right corridor. It's basically shaped like a T, basically. Midoriya goes walking up to the left. And then there are those kids that Midoriya knows hates him, walking towards him. As soon as that does happen, Midoriya does actually pay attention to their body language. And he does actually look behind him, seeing two more people out of the corner of his vision. And he does actually begin to think. He is wearing his business outfit, or one of his finer pressed outfits, meaning that he does actually at least carry a knife right by the bend in his arm. So if anything does go bad, Midoriya would be able to fight. Technically, he is supposed to carry that knife in his, ankle, but he does actually prefer to keep it closer by his hand. Now, with that all said and done, let us go to their quirks. Now, the quirks we do actually have. They are Spring Limb, Rainbow, Armored Limbs, and Glue. Now, with that being said, Midoriya, he is standing there. And as he does go to continue walking, he does actually go to the right. However, the kid in front of him actually does go to his left, getting in Midoriya's way, who does actually go to try and walk between them, saying excuse me as he does try and pass by. The kid with the armored limbs bringing his hand up and basically stopping Midoriya. As the two behind Midoriya, they actually do come running up. And Midoriya, he actually does look behind him. Ask them exactly what do they want. My, isn't it the quirkless kid? So, how's it going, star student? Who are you? Oh, of course you wouldn't know me. I mean, we've only taken one class together. Anyways, I'm not somebody you should familiarize yourself with. In fact, by the time we're done here, I don't believe you even will remember our faces. Now, Midoriya actually just think that that's weird. So, they want to fight. Let's see. This kid has armor covering his body. Kind of like a knight. Strange. This other kid, I can't tell what his quirk is. So, it's in the meta class, right? I don't see any physical mutations. Now, as Midoriya actually does go to turn around, something hits him directly in his back, as he's sent flying forwards. The kid with the armored limbs throwing his right hand outwards and punching Midoriya in his guts. Now, as soon as that does happen, Midoriya actually does fall onto the ground. And he actually does feel very hurt, as somebody actually does do something. The kid with the rainbow quirk actually does bring up their hands or their fingers and begin to blast rainbows into Midoriya's face in an attempt to blind him. Now, after that has happened, Midoriya is having a very hard time seeing. And as soon as he does actually open his eyes, he does find that his vision is very bad. Now, Midoriya has temporarily been blinded, and he's trying to blink it away. Now, with that, the kid wasn't really using their quirk at a very powerful level. In fact, they're just supposed to rough Midoriya up. However, they realize quickly that they're beginning to go a bit too far. Now, with that, this girl does actually start to have second thoughts. While the other three, they seem to be completely done with this subject. as Midoriya actually does go to his feet and try to bring up his hands into somewhat of a stance. Now, Midoriya is in a judo stance, and he's trying to listen for any sounds. His mind is currently going at a million miles an hour right now, and he's simply just trying to think about the best options he does have. As he's hit in the back once again, and he's actually hit in the face this time, being punched hard across the jaw as he goes flying into the wall. Now, as soon as he does actually do that, the kid with the armored limbs quirk actually does begin by grabbing Midoriya and pinning him to the wall with his forearm, slamming his right arm into the wall and telling him to do it now. As the kid with the glue quirk does actually begin to fire glue into Midoriya's hand. And as it begins to seep down the wall, it begins to cover parts of Midoriya's forearm. As he then actually does have it dry out quickly. Now, Midoriya actually is going to try and pull away his right arm. And the kid tells Midoriya that that's not a good idea, stating that his quirk allows him to stick anything to anything, and is actually very good. He won't say how well it works, but Midoriya can tell that the kid is still somewhat uncertain of it. So, I don't think he can change the consistency yet. Damn it. This is bad. Very bad. Now, the kid with armored limbs still begins to try and beat into Midoriya. Him punching Midoriya in the gut and actually just beginning to sock him across the face. As the kid with the, spring limbs quirk, he just begins by moving backwards and throwing out his arm. As he does do that, he actually does hit Midoriya quite hard across the face, before he actually has to pull his arm back in. Now, after that does happen, you actually do have the Rainbow Quirk Girl, who is still somewhat uncertain, as these three guys are beating down and trying to lay into Midoriya a bit of a lesson. Now, after they do actually beat Midoriya down pretty well or hard, we actually do cut to Midoriya, who actually does have blood seeping down his face, and quite possibly a few broken or fractured ribs, along with actually a very bad looking jaw. Now, Midoriya's jaw is dislocated, however he might have broken a few teeth. And there's actually Midoriya's vision, as he actually does start blinking, finding it surprising that he's still conscious. Now, Midoriya is basically laying down against the wall with his arm still stuck to the wall, as the girl is looking at Midoriya, asking them if they think they went a bit too far. We're here to teach him a lesson. He's quirkless. He thinks he's better than us. But what makes you think he thinks that? It's the way everyone talks to him, talks about him. They talk about him like he's a living god. However, look at him now. Beaten, broken, and an idiot. So, I don't think that. In fact, Midoriya hearing something being shaken. It sounds like a bag of metal. Him actually looking over and seeing what they're holding. They're holding a bag full of Midoriya's ammo, guns, and they actually do have his money. Now, they actually do state that they also have another idea. How about, just to show how, good Midoriya is at being a student, they actually kill somebody with Midoriya's gun. They can come back and actually put fingerprints on the weapon. Afterwards, they can state that they beat Midoriya up because they found out about this. They saw him run off with a firearm. Basically, putting a scenario together that frames Midoriya and puts them better than him. Now, the girl immediately begins to start backing out of this, saying that she doesn't want to be a part of it. another kid actually stating that Midoriya, he would not do that. Everyone knows that. Even then, you're going a bit too far, don't you think? No, I'm not. Besides, we all know how this world is. Every one of us. We were all orphans, remember? Hell, I thought if anyone could understand it, it'd be you three. Oh well then. I guess I'll do it myself, but if you rat me out, I'll kill you all. Now, you actually do have Midoriya, who is trying to get back onto his feet. As he actually does have his rage begin to get flowing. And he begins to get more pissed off, telling the guy that he's not going to do that. Oh, would you look at that? So, what do you want? I said you're not going to do that. Midoriya trying to lunge forwards and rush in, as his arm does actually stop him. Midoriya beginning to pull away at it. Now, they actually do tell Midoriya that that's a concrete wall. He's not getting away from it. And the kid states that Midoriya is going to have a lot of trouble. If he's not careful, he's going to do something stupid. Now, Midoriya actually does do one thing. He actually does try to move his body, shifting around and turning to where he's actually in front of his forearm, as he actually does bring his leg up to the wall and grab his arm. Then watching as he does actually begin to pull. As that does happen, you hear an eerie sound, as more blood begins to pour down Midoriya's arm. And they do watch on in horror as Midoriya breaks free. Now, they watch a beaten and bloody Midoriya as he begins to start screaming in pain, ripping the skin off of his arm and actually getting it free. As soon as he actually does do that, his adrenaline is pumping high, and he turns to look to his left, immediately charging forwards. All three of them, or four of them, surprised. As the guy with the armor quirk actually does bring his hands up, saying that they can take him as long as they stay together. Besides, he's still weakened. Now, the guy with the springs quirk actually does agree, throwing out his limb. And Midoriya, he actually does go to reach his hand up his sleeve and grab his knife, as he does actually dodge to his left. Them surprised that Midoriya can see as he actually does throw out the knife and slice off this limb. The kid's screaming out in pain as he goes flying behind Midoriya, and he continues to rush in. As soon as he does, he's able to actually get close enough, stabbing the knife upwards into the kid with a spring quirk, before pulling the blade out and socking him with his left hand into an uppercut. Now, the kid with the armor quirk actually does go to bring up the gun and go to fire it. As the shot rings out, he actually does miss. He brought the gun up too fast and tried to fire. And Midoriya, he was actually able, to dodge. He tried to move and react at the same time. However, the kid, his aim was shit. The bullet would have whisked past Midoriya if he did not move. However, with Midoriya's added movement, it looks like he evaded the shot. So he got lucky. The kid panicked, and he only put one bullet in the actual magazine, or the cylinder, if you want to say it's a revolver. Now, as soon as that did happen, Midoriya actually did rush in. And with the knife, he actually did try and stab into the kid's arm, or into his chest, finding that the kid's chest is also covered in armor. Now, as soon as he actually did do that, the kid actually did try and punch into Midoriya's face, him socking Midoriya across the face, and Midoriya's, mouth being caught. Midoriya trying to bite into the kid's knuckles, as the two kids who were backing out actually watched Midoriya in his feral rage. Midoriya immediately just trying to bite into his knuckles and stab into him, as Midoriya actually has turned to look at the kid with rage in his eyes, before spinning the blade around and bringing the knife up further, towards the kid's forearm, or into his arm, where his shoulder is, the joint in his arm. Midoriya actually finding a place to put the knife, stabbing it into the kid's arm as he actually does throw the knife upwards, towards the top of his shoulder. The kid screaming out in pain, as Midoriya actually does smile, before bringing his hand up and punching him into the nose. Midoriya grabbing the knife out and beginning to stab into the parts of his armor that he can, or the joints that are not covered. Places for mobility like the shoulders, the neck, and I do want to say parts of his chest that allow for muscle movement. Now, as soon as that does actually happen, Midoriya actually does go to look at the kid with the spring quirk, who's clutching his chest and on the ground. Midoriya, him, grabbing the kid by his shirt and wrapping it around him, pulling the kid up, asking him if he thought that was funny, if he thought that was at all funny. And the kid trying to actually tell Midoriya that it was not. Midoriya screaming at him that hurt a lot, bringing up his bloody and skin-torn arm, and punching him in the face. Now, as soon as that does actually happen, Midoriya grabs the gun, and he grabs his ammo back, putting in 3 shots, and closing the gun, spinning the cylinder and actually grabbing the kid. Ask him exactly, does he feel lucky? Does he? Midoriya putting the gun in his mouth as he actually begins to start screaming at him to listen, saying that 3 cylinders are empty, 3 are full, and that he has a 50% chance. Now, the kid does hear that he actually does begin to somewhat cry. And Midoriya, he actually does pull the trigger. Now, the cylinder was supposed to be empty, but it wasn't. Midoriya forgot that he didn't pull back the hammer already. So the bullets that was in the cylinder, or within the round that was loaded within the cylinder, well, that one was supposed to be empty. However, the cylinder turned and loaded the actual bullet that Midoriya did not mean to fire. Now, as soon as that does happen, Midoriya actually does look up, as the 2 kids who are with these people do see Midoriya. Midoriya letting go of the kid's shirt as he actually does begin to walk towards them. Now, the girl with the rainbow quirk actually does somewhat try and bring up her hands, thinking that she can fight. However, Midoriya, he does actually still have the gun in his hand, as he actually does bring his hand up before tossing it into the air, catching the gun and walking forwards, towards the kid with the glue quirk. Now, with that, the kid with the glue quirk actually does go to take off. Midoriya taking into a sprint, as he actually does run past the girl with the rainbow quirk, before almost getting to the end of the hallway, tackling the kid down to the ground as the kid actually is trying to use his quirk on Midoriya. Now, he did not account for the fact that him and Midoriya are making skin-to-skin contact, basically accidentally gluing Midoriya's arm to his own. Now, as soon as that does actually happen, Midoriya loves this opportunity, as him still on top of the kid just begins to beat him into the face with the butt end of his revolver. Now, Midoriya just starts hitting away and hitting away, left, right, screaming and smiling the whole way through, before he actually does toss the gun in front of him and just begins to use his bare bloody knuckles. Now, Midoriya also does grab the kid by his hair and begin to just slam his face down over and over again, him still in a feral rage, before he actually does go to try and get onto his feet. Now, As soon as he does actually get onto his feet, he does find that the kid's arm is still stuck to his own. Him putting his foot down onto the kid's shoulder and beginning to tear. Now, the kid was already passed out. However, Midoriya this time was able to pull the glue off of this kid. Now, Midoriya's arm is somewhat bleeding. However, he actually does turn around and look at the girl with the rainbow quirk, beginning to make his way towards her, as she actually does just drop to the ground. And Midoriya does actually get directly in front of her bringing her hands up and beginning to try and blast away her quirk. However, Midoriya, he does one thing. He grabs her by her throat and pulls her up to her feet. Now, he tells her to open her eyes, her hesitantly doing so, as she does actually turn to her right and look at the kid. The knife in his neck, and the blood pouring down his shoulder and on the floor. And the kid that Midoriya did not mean to kill. Now, with all of that, Midoriya does actually tell her that he's calmed down a little bit. So, here's what she's going to do. He's going to go report this, and so is she. As he actually does say that they're going to go down that hallway and tell somebody what happened here. Now, she is his witness, so she doesn't have to worry about him killing her. As he does actually somewhat just start grinning, saying that she is going to prove his innocence. Now, with that, as Midoriya actually does say that, we do have security, who heard the shot ring out, as men in tactical gear actually begin to make their way down the hallways. One man coming from the locker room that Midoriya walked out of. And as soon as he does actually go to clear the hallways, he does actually turn the corner, seeing Midoriya holding the girl by her throat up against the wall. As he tells Midoriya to back away, and to get on the ground and put his hands behind his head. Midoriya turning and looking at him, with a bloody and tattered face. Midoriya letting go of the girl's neck as she drops to the ground, before getting down on his knees and putting his hands behind his neck, behind his head. Now, as soon as Midoriya does actually do that, you also do have more of these security guards, or security officers, who clear multiple hallways before actually converging on Midoriya's location, putting him in handcuffs and taking him to a holding cell, or at least a detention center within the base. Now, they do actually check to see the vitals of these three kids that Midoriya actually did fight against. One kid is missing an arm and dead. The other kid was stabbed to death even though he had armor. Midoriya accidentally cut into an artery in his neck and caused a bleed out. Meanwhile, the other kid, he's actually somewhat in a better shape. He's alive. And Midoriya, whenever he did tear the glue off of his arm, or his left arm, he actually did somewhat open up one of the kid's arteries in his forearm, along with the fact that Midoriya beat him into a coma. Now, along with that, Midoriya himself does get medical treatment, as whenever questioned about what happened, the girl does actually lay it all out. Those three and her actually want to teach Midoriya a bit of a lesson. They wanted to basically say that Midoriya was higher than everyone else. One key convinced her to join in, because she thought that it would be a very easy thing to do. She kinda did agree, but she was also talked into it. She didn't see Midoriya as a very good student. She saw him as a good guy, sure, but even then, he was seen above everyone else sometimes. However, then those three, they talked her into it. And they actually did give her some money, stating that this was their plan. Also going on to state that then this all happened. One kid actually talked about framing Midoriya for a murder, even pulling in a kid whose, well, quirk was used, or the kid that was hired. That kid being questioned about what he did. Now, him being told that the girl, or saying her name, Sarah, actually give him up, and that he actually should cooperate. Otherwise, they can expel him from the program, and him and his teacher will be excommunicado. Now, as soon as the kid does actually hear those words, he spills it, stating, this happened, and him actually reaching into his pocket and tossing some gold coins on the table, saying this was what he was being paid, begging the teachers or this man not to excommunicado him and his teacher. Now, with that, we also do have Isla and many other people, along with the actual director of the facility. Now, we actually do cut to Midoriya's hospital room, roughly a couple days later. As Midoriya's arms, forearms, and part of his bicep are bandaged on both sides of his arm, along with his neck, face, and, well, mouth. Now, you also do have his body, him somewhat wearing a bit of a back brace, since he actually did damage some parts of his back. Now, he just needs to stay bedridden for a couple of weeks, and he will be good to go. Now, this is whenever somebody who does actually walk into Midoriya's room and begin to talk with a young boy. Now, Midoriya actually just look at the man. The man saying that Midoriya is a very, very dangerous boy, isn't he? Yes, sir. Midoriya says somewhat in a groggy tone. The man then going on to state that Midoriya, he is a very, very brutal boy. Correct. Midoriya saying that he didn't mean to murder one of them. Now, the man does actually tell Midoriya not to apologize. That was just the beginning of his career. He's killed people before, yes? Midoriya listing off his current kill count. 125. The man asking if he's counting those two boys. Midoriya saying 124. This surprising the man. So Midoriya thought that he actually did kill that boy, whenever he did beat him, like the girl said. Interesting. Now, the man goes on introducing himself, saying that he is the director, and he's very excited to see Midoriya. Now, he also does go on stating that Midoriya did very well, ensuring his survival over anything else. Now, along with that, he actually does say that he does have somewhat of a gift for Midoriya. Him sitting down in a small case by Midoriya's hospital bed. Now, Midoriya does look at the case, analyzing it, and going over what he thinks it might be in his head. The way it looks, it might be another knife. So, he's being given another knife after he just killed somebody. That's going to be useful, especially since that knife was confiscated for evidence. Okay. Midoriya actually going to move. As soon as he does, he actually does feel pain, somewhat vocalizing a tss as he does move. Him grabbing the case and bring it over, as he does actually open it up. Surprised to see a pen. Him going to hold it up. What's this? A pen. Okay. I thought you were giving me a knife. Oh no. Why would I give you a knife? Well, my other one was confiscated. Okay. That one you can buy on your own. However, this pen is going to be very useful to you. I can assure you. I believe that one day you'll figure out why. However, for right now, let's just say that I believe that you should have one. Okay, thank you. The man getting up and going to leave. Now, Midoriya actually does go back to what he was doing, as he does actually reach for the remote and turn on the television, as he does actually begin to watch some of the things on TV. Now, we do cut to outside the hospital room, where the man does actually look through the glass at Midoriya, asking Isla if she believes that he is really going to be as brutal as she thinks that he is. I believe so. If we are able to recover that security footage, then we can see exactly what happened. However, there's also the fact that Midoriya killed 3 people, well, 2 technically, with quirks. Something that he should not have been able to do. In fact, even I do have trouble with that sometimes. However, there's his mind. He's a very smart child. He uses his intelligence to his fullest. And honestly, I think that's what makes him deadlier than me. Deadlier than you. Interesting. So you think that he'll be a boogeyman? A boogeyman. That would be an interesting thought. Now, with that, the man actually does say Isla's her nickname, saying that he'll be going now, before he actually does go to leave. Now, with that all being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing night. I will catch you guys in the next part.